The harmony of body and soul has been disrupted, and men easily mistake the beauty of the body for true beauty, taking the shadow or reflection for the reality. This degrades the soul and sets up the body as a kind of false god to be pampered and served, feeding the appetites of the body to such an extent that it, not the soul, rules the man. Therefore, one's first spiritual struggle must be to return the body to its correct function as servant of the soul. Is the servant waited upon by the mistress? Is it more splendidly adorned than she? Is the mistress's life arranged so as to please her servant? The answer to all of these is no. Therefore, the mistress must discipline the servant, and the soul must contend with the flesh. But how to do this? Quote, "It is neither normal nor possible to be friendly with a snake and carry it in one's bosom. Nor is it possible to pamper the body and love it beyond what is useful and needed, and at the same time try to care for heavenly virtue. Why? Because it is the nature of the snake to wound the one who warms it, and it is the nature of the body to pollute by lust the one who pampers it. Let the body be aware that it has a master ready to punish it. Do not allow this mortal clay, this daughter of darkness, to be ignorant of her immortal mistress, the soul. Even if it be the day of your death, do not trust your flesh." Unquote. That quote comes from Saint Hezekiah of Jerusalem in Texts on Sobriety and Prayer. Quote, "He who fondles a lion can sometimes tame it, but he who pampers the body makes it even wilder. Through all of your life, put no trust in your body. Do not rely on it until you stand before Christ. He who resolves to contend with his flesh and conquer it by himself struggles in vain. For unless the Lord destroys the house of the flesh and builds the house of the soul, the man who tries to destroy it on his own watches and fasts in vain. Who has conquered his flesh? He who has crushed his heart. Who has crushed his heart? He who has denied himself. He who dies to his own will. He is the one who has crushed himself." Unquote. That comes from St. John Climacus from the Ladder of Divine Ascent. Thus, far from caring excessively for the body, we should, quote, "strive to mortify it by labors and ascetic privations. For as long as the body is filled with life, the soul is of necessity dead. It is heavy and immovable when it comes to working on the commandments of God." Unquote. St. Simeon the New Theologian in Practical and Theological Precepts. Quote, "For the wise man, when he seeks after the divine, frees his soul from the body and forgoes its company. He is dealing with knowledge of the truth, and of such a kind that he longs for it to be revealed to him, unveiled and clear. Therefore he seeks to divest himself of certain snares and obscurities of the body. We cannot comprehend such heavenly truth with hands or eyes or ears, because what we can see is only temporal, but what is not seen is eternal. Indeed, we are often deceived by sight, and we see things for the most part other than they really are. We are deceived by hearing too, and so, if we do not wish to be deceived, let us contemplate not what is seen, but what is unseen. But when is our soul not deceived? When does it attain the throne of truth? Is it only when it separates itself from the body that it is not deceived and led astray by it? For it is led astray by the sight. It is led astray by the hearing. So let the soul leave and abandon these things. This is why the Apostle Paul cries out, "Do not touch, nor taste, nor handle things which must all perish." For things which the body indulges in are also for its corruption. Thus the Apostle shows us that he found the truth not through bodily indulgence, but by elevating the soul, and by humility of heart, for our way of life is in heaven. It is in heaven, therefore, that he seeks what is true, that which exists and endures. He does not entrust himself to others or believe them. He wishes to know and understand himself and follow what is true. He knows that what he had thought was desirable out of fleshly pleasure is false. He retreats and flees from it, knowing it to be full of deceit. For this reason, he de-emphasizes and dishonors the body, calling it the body of this death. The needs of the body give birth to countless worries and introduce activities that impede the strength of the soul and hinder its ability to concentrate. Holy Job expressed it well. Remember that you are fashioned from clay. Since this body is clay, it certainly soils rather than washes us, for it defiles the soul with its intemperance. With skin and flesh you clothed me. Job 10, verse 11. Thus our soul is bound and tormented by the sinews of the body, and as a result, it hardens. That's from St. Ambrose of Milan in Exegetical Works. If you're worried that this maybe sounds too Gnostic, it's not. Just keep listening. The Holy Fathers clearly tell us not to trust the body. Quote, "Despise your body, for it will be consumed by worms. When it lies in corruption, it will be of no help to you. Therefore," the Apostle says, "make no provision for the flesh." Unquote. That's St. Barsanaphes and John in the writings of Directions in Spiritual Work. But at the same time, we must remember to care for the body as a tool of the soul, just as we care for the animals who serve us. When the tool is blunted, it hinders the artist. No matter how quick and skillful he may be, a man should keep to right judgment in all things, so that he will not stumble. As in all things, so with the body, we must find the correct balance. The difficulty is not whether we will neglect the body, depriving it in an unreasonable and damaging way, but that we will take too good of care of it. Therefore, do not give all of your care to the body. Give it work which matches its strength, and then turn all of your attention to what is within. For bodily exercise profits little, but godliness is profitable unto all things. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. Whenever the flesh outweighs the soul on the scales, it tortures the soul and weighs it down with a burden, pushing it in the direction of improper and corrupt desires and impulses. As is written, "The flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh," in Galatians chapter 5, verse 17. But having disciplined the body by fasting, you should mortify it until, even though reluctantly, it becomes obedient to its ruler. As St. Paul said, "Though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." And St. Isaac says, quote, "Let yourself die in striving rather than living in laziness. For those who die trying to keep the commandments are martyrs just as much as those who died for Christ's faith." Unquote. But, quote, "The majority of men whose souls lack good sense incline towards a short-lived kinship with their bodies, thinking only of physical things. Like dumb animals inflamed by lust, they cut themselves off from God by their own action and bring their souls down from heaven into the abyss of carnal desires." Unquote. That's from St. Anthony the Great in 170 texts on saintly life. Quote, "The surest rule and standard for a well-disciplined life is this. One must be indifferent to either pleasure or pain of flesh, but one must not be immoderate in either direction, so that the body will become neither disordered by obesity nor so sickly that it cannot carry out commands." Unquote. That is St. Basil the Great in Ascetical Discourses. How then does one make the soul the mistress and the body the servant? The Holy Fathers describe 3 ways or remedies which, although listed separately, quote, "are all connected so that one is required by another and does not exist without it," unquote, from Blessed Theodora. Number 1, quote, "Let the first care of the soul be to rein in and control all of the senses. The stronger the body, the more strongly it is drawn to what is its own. The more strongly it is drawn, the harder it is to resist. Therefore, the second care of the soul should be, number 2, to diligently discipline the flesh by fasting, vigil, standing at prayer, sleeping on the bare earth, and other kinds of deprivations which will exhaust the strength of the body and make it both humble and obedient in the spiritual activities of the soul. This is the most important thing to achieve. It is, however, easier to wish than to do, because the senses steal away one's attention, and that is why the 3rd remedy has been devised. Number 3, prayer and tears. Prayer gives thanks for all things and asks for forgiveness of sins and for the sending down of strength for further progress. Without the help of God, the soul can do nothing correctly. Furthermore, prayer unites the soul to Him whom the soul seeks. It gives joy in Him and makes greater the urge to strive towards Him with all possible force. Tears are also powerful in this regard because they obtain the mercy of God when we sin. They purify us of the defilement of sensory pleasures, and they give wings to our desire for what is on high. The whole thing is this: we must have a complete and total desire for spiritual blessings. And this is why discipline of the flesh, consisting of fasting, chastity, and so forth, are undertaken to help one another when joined together with prayer. Anyone who struggles to subdue the flesh knows how hard this labor is, how the body seems almost to cry out for indulgence and coddling, how it seeks to convince one that even the smallest attempt at self-discipline is harmful and is therefore doomed to failure. So great is the struggle and so potent the claims of the flesh that men often forget that they really are not forced to give up this warfare, for they do still have free will. Speaking about this kind of weak-heartedness, St. John Chrysostom comments, quote, "One may say, but I am not able to practice self-restraint. Do not then bring forward, I beseech you, perverse reasonings, neither sophistries and webs slighter than the spiders, but answer me this: did God make all men? It is surely plain to everyone. How is it then that some are good, gentle, and meek, and yet others are worthless and evil? For if by nature all were bad, it would not be possible for anyone to be good. And if all were good by nature, then no one could be bad. We see that many good men become worthless, and many worthless men become good, the one through carelessness, the other by earnest striving. This shows that these things do not come by nature, but by choice. But if you are puzzled at this, I will ask you nothing difficult or involved, but a simple and plain question. Have you ever been bad? Have you ever done something good? What I mean is this: did you ever prevail over a passion or later were overcome by one? Have you ever been drunk and on another occasion overcame the temptation to get drunk? Did you once commit whoredom, but then regain chastity? Whence then are all these things? Tell me, whence? If you cannot tell me, I will. Because on some occasions you restrained yourself with striving, but at other times you became remiss and careless. Whence then is this change? Is it not quite plain that it is from the mind and the choice of the will? It is quite plain, and there is no one who would not say this. That comes out of St. John Chrysostom's writings in his homily 59 on the Gospel of St. Matthew, which I will absolutely be finding the whole homily and reading it on here, God willing, because that was fire. Therefore, with regard to our struggle to subdue our bodies, we may not say, I am unable to practice self-restraint. The kingdom of heaven belongs to the violent, for they bear it away, as the Gospel says in Matthew 11, chapter 11, verse 12. By violence, it's meant the affliction of the body which Christ's disciples voluntarily underwent by denying their own will, refusing rest to the body, and in following the commandments of Christ. If then you desire to win the kingdom of God, you must become a man of violence. Bow your neck to the yoke of your service to Christ. Those are the words of St. Basil the Great on renunciation of the world. Quote, when the mind inclines towards God, it makes the body its servant and gives to it only what is needful for life. But when it inclines towards the flesh, it then becomes a slave of its passions. That is from St. Maximus the Confessor in 4 Centuries on Love. God helps us in this struggle. Quote, he who overcomes the inclination of his soul towards the body becomes free of its limitations, even while remaining in the body. Who attracts his desire is beyond compare higher than all things. He does not allow this man to become attached to things which are inferior to him. Therefore, let us desire God with all of our strength. Let us not allow the body to hold captive our free choice. Unquote. That is from St. Mark the Ascetic, Discourses. And so, quote, let us not be earnest as to the body which groweth old, nor as to that beauty which is fading, nor as to that pleasure which is fleeting, but let us expend all our care about the soul, providing for her welfare in every way. For to cure the body when diseased is not an easy matter to everyone, but to cure the sick soul is a thing that is easy to procure and without cost. For since death will come and destroy and dissolve the body, whether or not it is diseased, everything then depends on the health of the soul. Since the soul is by far the most precious and necessary, God has made the healing of it easy and free of either expense or pain. What excuse, therefore, or what pardon shall we obtain if, when the body is sick and we expend money on its behalf, we treat the soul with neglect? And this, when we are neither called upon to pay money, nor to trouble others, nor to endure any suffering. By only choosing and willing, we have it in our power to accomplish the entire change of our soul. Unquote. St. John Chrysostom again, concerning the statues, homily 45. Quote, "The soul, playing in moderation on the body as if it were a musical stringed instrument, strikes the passions of the flesh as if they were notes on the strings. In this way it produces music which accords with a virtuous way of life. The soul, therefore, is the user, the body that which is being used. The soul is the one in command. The body is our possession. If someone loves the beauty of our soul, he loves us. But if he loves the beauty of the body, he loves not the man himself, but the beauty of the flesh, which so quickly wastes away and then disappears." Unquote. That's St. Ambrose of Milan again. Quote, "Give heed to thyself." This means, do not pay attention to your possessions and the things which surround you, but to yourself alone. Our body is one thing, our possessions are something else, and the objects around us still another. Our body is our possession, but money, jobs, and the other things of life in this world are extraneous to us. What does Scripture mean by this command? Simply this: do not attend to the flesh, nor seek after its good in any form, whether health, beauty, enjoyment of pleasures, or longevity. And do not admire wealth, fame, or power in others, thus neglecting your soul. Adorn the soul, care for it, so that, by means of careful attention, you may remove every defilement which results from sin, and every shameful vice, that you may embellish and make bright the soul with the ornaments of virtue. Closely study what kind of person you are, and know your nature. Know that your flesh is mortal, but your soul is immortal. Do not cling to the mortal as if it were eternal, and do not disdain that which is eternal as if it were mortal. Despise the flesh, which passes away, but take care for your soul, which will never die. Quote, "Acquire an exact understanding of yourself so that you will know how to give what is needful to each side of your nature, food and clothing to the body, and doctrines of piety, refined behavior, the practice of virtue, and the correction of vice to your soul. Do not fatten your body unnecessarily. The body is sleek, the mind is consequently weak and unable to carry on its proper activities." Unquote. That is St. Basil the Great. Give heed to thyself. It says to see note 3. Let's go to note 3. Indeed, the point must be made that in a world which constantly assaults us with obsessions about bodily health, we arrive at adulthood with dangerously distorted views on this subject. In a subsequent installment of this series, the thoughts of the Holy Fathers concerning illness and bodily health will be discussed in greater detail. But here it should be understood that few men today have a patristic view of why and how to subdue the flesh. So thoroughly has the spirit of the world influenced even Orthodox Christians that when we fast from prescribed foods during Lenten periods, we think that we have accomplished some great deed, when in fact we have only come close to the minimum standard. We can see this most vividly in the lives of the saints. To take, for example, only one volume of the saints' lives, the Northern Thebaid, Thebaid, monastic saints of the Russian North, we can see in the life of each saint the fullness of struggles against the body, a fullness which we by no means even approximate today. Thus, in the life of Saint Sergius of Radon, we read that he completely wore out and refined his flesh. Saint Cyril of White Lake, quote, by wasting his flesh, he enlightened his soul and almost did not know sleep, unquote. In his rule to his disciples, St. Nilus of Sora instructs, quote, the young and healthy should wear out the body with fasting, thirst, and labor, while to the old and weak a relaxation is permitted to a certain extent, unquote. St. Alexander of Sphere, quote, gave himself over entirely to God, laboring day and night without sloth, wearing out his flesh with fasting and prayer, unquote. Finally, we cite from the life of St. Anastasia of Padan the story of her grandmother, quote, who lived 114 years. She was a strict faster. On Fridays, she would eat nothing at all except a little bread and water after the setting of the sun, unquote.